Welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with your host, Austin Davidson and John Keir, talking Steelers all the time. Now, here's Austin and John.
Hello and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. My name is John Keir, and joining me as always is my co-host, Austin Davidson.
Heyo.
It's Season 2, Episode 59. And just after Christmas, the Steelers pick up a win, now move to 12-3, but there is a lot to talk about, Austin. I'm a little under the weather here, so I'm going to try to not talk too terribly much because it doesn't feel great for me, but the Steelers do come away with the win, but nobody's really talking about that right now, Austin. Over the past 2 or 3 days, really over almost the past week now, there has been a lot of attention paid to the actions of James Harrison and the Steelers and the New England Patriots. On, I believe it's Thursday or Friday, the Steelers released James Harrison to make room for Marcus Gilbert returning to the active roster from suspension. The week passes, and James Harrison is picked up on Tuesday by the Patriots in a shocking move. There's been a lot said about everything about James Harrison as far as how much he wanted to play, how he didn't feel like his role was, how he felt like he was lied to about his role, and it all came to a head after the Patriots lost last week. And on Wednesday, the Steelers locker room, they kind of blew up on him, a few players in particular, Bud Dupree and Maurkice Pouncey notably. I guess, Austin, let's back it up a bit to last offseason. The Steelers had just released Jarvis Jones. They had Bud Dupree, Arthur Moats, and Anthony Chickillo. They had 3 outside linebackers. They had not drafted TJ Watt, so they decided to sign James Harrison to a 2-year deal. Okay. Once they drafted TJ Watt, the coaching staff made it clear that Harrison was not going to be kind of in the same role he had been the last couple of years, kind of almost the de facto starter when Jarvis Jones wasn't playing well. He made it clear that he wanted out at that point. I believe he asked for his release week 1, and then he asked for it another time, and then he asked for it again last week. There's a lot of moving parts here, especially, first of all, a lot of the Steelers coaching staff and front office, they didn't, mention anything about it, but really we learned a lot about what really went on behind the scenes and that James Harrison really probably was not a very good teammate. He might have been in the past, but Maurkice Pouncey went as far as to say James Harrison erased his legacy. So I guess, what are your thoughts on all of this?
It's a very interesting situation because it's been a lot of back and forth, a lot of changing ideologies, so to say. At first, it kind of felt like James Harrison was a victim, and I was a little mad at the Steelers for releasing him, and that was just the beginning, and then it was like more information poured out. There was a lot of different layers to this, and then players were saying, like, he's not a victim. Bud Dupree actually said that. He's not a victim, and y'all stupid for if you think he is. And then it came out that he asked for his release 3 times this year already, and then it just became like, well, James Harrison didn't even want to be here. So, I mean, I stopped feeling bad for him, especially with what players were saying for him. The way players made it sound is that he didn't want players to be better than him. He didn't want the young guys like TJ Watt and Bud Dupree to be to increase their ability to do stuff. Because Bud Dupree came out and said that he looked for help, and James Harrison would almost never help him at all, like try and teach him things or anything. And then also, Anthony Chickillo, he didn't really take shots. He just kind of said that he had no relationship with James Harrison at all. He was just a player. That's all he said. He was a player in a locker. He's a linebacker with him. That was it. They weren't friends or anything. That was it. He wouldn't help him either, obviously. So it's just kind of rough, like, hearing that, because this went from, this might be something that the Steelers fans forget pretty soon, kind of like the Franco Harris to Seattle Seahawks, to more like it's not going to ruin his Steelers legacy, like Martavis Bryant said, but it's going to hurt it for a little while. It's going to hurt it for a little while more than any other Steeler that left. Because I don't really remember malice with any other Steelers great that left. This is bad. This was not good. I think he will recover, but most fans got mad at him choosing the Patriots to move on, and this is where I will stick up for him. He wanted to play. He wants to play, and he wants to go to a competitor. And the Patriots need a linebacker. I mean, there's almost no one. I mean, maybe the Titans they could have, but Titans might not even make the playoffs. They're a wild card team. I don't blame him for choosing the Patriots. It does suck, and I think people are overplaying the stealing calls thing because people will say that. Martavis Bryant said, "What is he going to tell them? Shift left, shift right." It is kind of stupid. Defensive calls don't really. I mean, I guess they're important, but they also change the calls. But that's been overplayed. And then I don't know where I wanted to go next. I feel like, back to him going to the Patriots. I would have done the same thing. I would have wanted to go to a competitor. I would have wanted to try and win one more ring. If I was leaving the only other competitor in the AFC, I would have wanted to go there. I mean, he could have traveled over to the NFC if he wanted and try and go to the Eagles or Vikings, but they don't really have. They don't have that need for a linebacker, nor do the Saints or Panthers really, or any of those teams. I mean, all of them are good over there. But I just feel like the Patriots was the best fit for them. The Patriots really needed a linebacker. James Harrison really wanted to go to a winning team, and he's seen the Patriots win quite a lot. So that really wraps it up for me. What do you have to say on the subject? What were your thoughts and everything?
I'm pretty similar to your thoughts. I feel like there are faults on both sides of this. Now, I believe James Harrison is more at fault than the Steelers, but I do think the Steelers made a mistake in keeping him on the roster as long as they did. Harrison has had a history of not being really, I guess, a upstanding citizen in the locker room, if you will. Just when he asked for his release in week 1, he continued to basically show that he wasn't interested in being a team player, if you will. The Steelers probably should have released him back in the preseason or after week 1, when it's clear that this wasn't going to work out. Keeping him on the roster as long as they did was an issue on their part, and they shouldn't have waited that long. That was a mistake on the Steelers' part. Because releasing him at week 16 is just bizarre. I guess releasing him at any point would have been bizarre, but this just seems strange. That they waited this long. Furthermore, just thinking about, his decision to join the Patriots, he's a free. That's the thing that Austin and I defended, was his decision to sign with anybody else. He's a 39-year-old outside linebacker. Why would he go anywhere else besides New England? It's a team that gives him the best chance to win and the best chance to play. The Steelers and most of the other competitors, he wouldn't play. So it would be the same thing as staying on the Steelers. So I don't begrudge him going to New England, and I don't begrudge him exercising his right as a free agent to go where he wants. What I do have issue with is the way he kind of rejected the Steelers and rejected his, I guess, role. I get that he's upset. He kind of deserves to be. He was brought back with the intention of playing, and if he's not going to play, why is he going to, he doesn't feel like he should sit there. And I understand that. But to basically, here's another thing Bud Dupree said. He said that Harrison posted all those workout videos just to stay relevant, which is pretty much it seems to ring true because he hasn't played much. He has 1 sack, and he had pretty much half of his snaps in one game against the Chiefs. Harrison just didn't have a role on this team, and I understand he's upset. He was lied to. They told him he was going to play against the Patriots, and he didn't play at all. They said he was going to play a decent amount, too, and he didn't play at all. So, yeah, I get that. He's upset. But to not assist the younger players because of stealing your limelight and leaving the stadium several times. He did this during the Bengals game when Shazier got hurt. He left the stadium during the game. And LeGarrette Blount left the field. Let me put it that way. Harrison left the entire premises, and Blount just left the field to, just a little bit of a parallel. Rashard Mendenhall did that once, and he got suspended. So I don't know why Harrison didn't get the same kind of treatment, or punishment rather, but it's very bizarre. I'm disappointed to see that Harrison acted the way he did, but the sad thing is we kind of knew in a sense that something like this could have happened. Maybe not to this degree, but anytime you let go of a Steelers great, it sucks. It's really unfortunate that the divorce was this ugly. I mean, this is certainly uglier than Troy Polamalu, Bruce Arians. I can't speak to the Terry Bradshaw one because I wasn't alive when he was when he retired in the end of his Steeler career, but I know that was pretty ugly too. I want to say that it's not going to be as bad in 5 years, but then again, you don't know what's going to happen. Bud Dupree said that Harrison left the Steelers basically and went to the Patriots basically to spit in the Rooney's face. Now, I don't know if I believe that necessarily, but I don't know. It's very tough. It's definitely not the way you want things to go. He also made a comment that Harrison didn't visit Shazier in the hospital. I just wanted to clarify that. When he said that, he meant the linebackers as a group went to visit Shazier. Harrison did visit Shazier. He does care. It's not like he doesn't care about Shazier. He was out there warming up before the Ravens game without a shirt on, just like Shazier always does. And he did visit Shazier in the hospital just on his own. So it's not like he doesn't care. I just wanted to point that out. He's not. Don't make him out to be that much of a villain, I guess. Really, I guess the only reason I think this is being this overblown is because of Harrison's history with the Steelers, his legacy as a potential Hall of Famer, one of the Steeler greats, a guy that made one of the biggest plays in Super Bowl history, helped the team win 2 championships, and a former Defensive Player of the Year, 2-time All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler. He really is an all-time great, and I think that it hurts now because he went to the Patriots, and it hurts because of what he did, but I think time will heal this. An interesting parallel, I guess, would be Jaromir Jagr when he left the Penguins. He didn't exactly do this, but he was also clearly very upset when he was forced to leave. Not forced, but he was traded from Pittsburgh. He made it clear he wasn't very happy. It took a very long time. As a matter of fact, it took about 15 years, but Jagr was finally celebrated again in Pittsburgh. I think that in time, Harrison will kind of come back to the good graces of Pittsburgh. But for now, this hurts, and the Steelers fans are not happy about it. And, it'll just make for another interesting storyline should the Steelers meet the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. Is there anything else you wanted to say on the matter?
No, I think we are good.
Okay. So, now we can move on to the Christmas Day game. So, I guess tell me first, the Steelers win 34-6. How did your bold predictions and X factors from last week pan out?
Well, I predicted someone to have 3 sacks. Unfortunately, I picked Vince Williams instead of Mike Hilton. And I had a bold prediction for Mike Hilton. It was a forced fumble and a pick 6. That didn't happen either. Also, Juju put up about half the game I had in my bold prediction. He only put up not many yards. It was only 75 yards, 6 receptions for 75 yards when I predicted that he would have 9 catches or 155 and 2 touchdowns. He only had 1 touchdown, but he still did good. As for my X factors, well, Marcus Gilbert played incredibly and was one of the best tackles in the league this week, so he panned out well. And my Joe Hayden Artie Burns combo, in my opinion, panned out well. Hayden let up a big gain, but he was in a good position on Hopkins, and then Hopkins had that amazing grab over him for a touchdown. But that's all that really comes to mind. And you could argue that Hayden was held on Hopkins' touchdown catch. I don't really argue it because I still think it was an amazing catch regardless. And I mean, I guess technically it should have been a catch, but I felt like he deserved it with how amazing he did on that. But that's all that really comes to mind. Hopkins is one of the best one of the league's best receivers. Dare I say the second best, because he's dealt with awful quarterbacks. Like, AB, he's going to get those big games every once in a while, and he is the only wide receiver this team has. So, how did your X factors and bold predictions pan out?
Well, my offensive X factor was Vance McDonald. I thought he did a pretty good job blocking for the running game, and he had 4 catches for 52 yards. It's something that the Steelers have missed without him, but I feel like taking away his performance doesn't change the outcome of the game, so he wasn't a huge X factor. The other thing is that he caught 3 of his 4 passes on the first 2 drives, so I thought it was going to be a big day for him. I predicted 7 catches and 100 yards and I think 2 touchdowns, so he didn't come close to that, but it looked like he was going to early on. My other X factor is Bud Dupree. I thought he was going to have a sack and a pick. He came close to the sack but didn't get one, didn't have a pick, and he was effective rushing the passer even if he wasn't, even if he didn't finish off the sack. My other one was that, my bold prediction was that Le'Veon Bell was going to have a really good day and was going to have his 9th rushing touchdown of the year, breaking a career high, or setting a new career high for him. I was right about that. But the Steelers actually limited his touches, which turns out to be something that is pretty good. I wasn't expecting that to be the case. I thought this game was going to feature Bell a lot, but the Steelers pulled away and they decided to kind of change it up with Stephon Ridley a lot, so I was happy to see that. So I guess other than that, my quick takeaways from this game is that this is the complete game we've been waiting for the Steelers on the road since I think last year against the Colts, that being a 28-7 win. I can't remember the last time the Steelers really blew out a team on the road. This was a nice win, and all the other receivers not named Brown that really needed to step up chipped in even a little bit when called upon in this game. It all wasn't one guy, too. All of them doing their part was really something I think that they should be proud of, and that's a good sign going forward. And then last but not least, for a team down to its 3rd and 4th quarterback, the Steelers seemed completely shocked that the Texans were going to try to run the ball at all. They were not ready for it, and they didn't respond well to it. They may get away with it next week, but doing that again in the playoffs means that their season's going to be over. What are your quick takeaways from this game, Austin?
There's a reason TJ Yates was a free agent for so long, and this game proved it. Steelers blew out a team they should have, so it's good to see them meet the standard. And then Mike Hilton is amazing. Very short, quick takeaways.
Not much from the injury report here. Marquise Pouncey did not practice yesterday with the hip injury, but he never left the game. But it's also fair to wonder if most of the important Steelers starters are going to play anyway. But that's a discussion for the next podcast. As far as the offense goes, Austin, I think you'll agree with me. This is one of the most complete performances this year, and they could have easily scored a lot more had they needed to.
I agree. Yeah, I think this team's going to put up way more points.
So how do you think they performed the offense? I guess kind of dissect it a little bit for me.
Sure. It's still strange to me that the offense looks identical to when it has Antonio Brown. That's interesting. That next man up mentality must run deep because it's like he isn't even gone. Everyone contributed again. Bell did his normal thing, getting over 100 scrimmage yards and a touchdown. Nix got his first ever rushing touchdown and the second touchdown of his career. Ben did great, throwing for nearly a 69% completion percentage, 226 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Then, most importantly, wide receivers stepped up. Smith-Schuster led the team in both receptions and yards with 6 receptions for 75 yards and a touchdown, having a great catch on the outside for a gain of 49 and ran an amazing route on his touchdown run. So he did great. Then while Martavis Bryant only caught 3 balls, they were all long ones and important ones. He had a great toe tap catch on the sideline as well as coming up clutch on 3rd down and 12 by using his long body to extend for the first when he was stopped 2 yards or so short. Then Vance Mcdonald did great in the first half, but then disappeared. I honestly thought he got hurt or something like in the Baltimore game where he put up very similar stats. But apparently he just didn't show up in the second half because he caught all four of his passes in the first half. But nonetheless, 4 catches for 52 yards is pretty good anyway. It's getting a little greedy to ask for more. Then Eli Rogers had a single catch for 6 yards, and Justin Hunter got a key catch that was a sliding touchdown, the first touchdown of the game to set the tone early. Lastly, the offensive line play was great. For a while now, I've had no fear of playing backup offensive linemen as I've had much I've had so much faith in B.J. Finney and Chris Hubbard. They're both great. And the line as a whole just gave up no sacks, 3 tackles for a loss, and 1 quarterback hit. And that's spectacular play regardless of the opponent. So what did you see from the offense in this game?
Well, the Steelers have the deepest offensive line in the league, don't they?
Yeah, they are so great, man.
I think it'd be hard to argue anywhere. They might not have the best. I think they do, but I think they definitely have the deepest. I think you could make a strong argument for every guy on the roster besides Filer and Hawkins being a starter on another team.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. As far as the offense goes, Austin, it's something we didn't see for the first half of the year. It was 30 points, and they did it with ease in this game. And they didn't play their starters for the last 8 minutes of the game, at least on offense. It's something we almost come to expect now. The Steelers did whatever they wanted on this lovely Christmas day, scoring on 4 of their first 5 drives, and I couldn't think of a single weakness that this offense had. And that was without Antonio Brown. And yeah, you can talk about the Texans being a defeated team, but the Texans loaded the box early, and they tried to stop Le'Veon Bell. Well, Ben Roethlisberger distributed the ball effectively early on. When the defense loosened up a little bit, he found Bryant down the far sideline with a great foot drag for a huge gain, and 3 plays later, Roethlisberger found Justin Hunter for his first Steelers touchdown. Hunter finally contributing for the Steelers. Don't know if he's going to do anything other than that this year, but at the very least, it's nice to see him making a catch on a critical play. On that drive, it's important to note that Bryant, Rodgers, and Hunter all caught passes. It was nice to see receivers other than Brown and Smith-Schuster making big plays. As far as from that point on, the Steelers really mixed in an effective ground game with Le'Veon Bell. Bell only finished with 69 yards, but he averaged just a little under 5 yards a carry in the process. On a day when the Steelers needed contributions from everybody in the passing game on top of an effective running game, they got just that. The Texans just could not touch Ben Roethlisberger either. They finished with 1 quarterback hit and 0 sacks. And yes, they technically had 1. Jadeveon Clowney had 1 sack taken away by a face mask penalty. The Steelers were fantastic on offense and easily could have scored 40-plus points if they needed to, in my mind. Without Antonio Brown, that's impressive no matter who you're playing, besides maybe the Browns. But I also wanted to mention that I think this might have been the offensive line's best game of the year. I think every single guy had a couple plays where I was just like, wow. And, the guy who I think has really started playing really well, I know we just ripped him a couple weeks ago, was Alejandro Villanueva. And, yeah, Clowney had a couple injuries he was dealing with, but he was he was no factor at all. Yeah, you can talk about the Texans being a defeated team, but Villanueva handled him pretty well. And for all the talk about Harrison being on the Patriots, I have a feeling that if Villanueva can handle someone like Jadeveon Clowney for a game, he can handle James Harrison. So that's a really good sign going forward for the Steelers, no matter how you want to chalk it up. On the other side, 6 points against is good, Austin, but it might be a little deceiving. So I guess, do you want to start with the good or the bad from the defense?
I'm going to start with the bad. You wouldn't think there's not anything to complain about with those 6 points, but, there is. I'll start with complaining and then talk about the good. Rush defense sucks. Really bad. They allowed Alfred Blue 108 yards, 6.8 yards a carry, and Lamar Miller another 55 yards and 5.5 yards a carry. Then let TJ Yates get a big 11-yard gain to convert a 3rd down. Granted, Blue got 48 of his yards on 1 run. He's still a backup running back. Neither of these running backs are particularly good. They're just average, and they gashed the Steelers. But back to that 48-yard run quickly. The Steelers continue to miss Shazier because a big reason that happened was there was confusion on the play prior to the snap, and then Blue just took advantage. So with the Steelers getting the bye, whatever team comes to face them after the first week of Wild Card Weekend will more than likely have a good running back. Realistically, the Jaguars and Chiefs are locked in their positions, and the Ravens are almost guaranteed a spot. They really have to screw up to not make it. Then you have the Titans, Chargers, and Bills all fighting for that last spot. And the only one there with bad running backs is Baltimore. And, well, Pittsburgh didn't exactly make Alex Collins look bad the last time they met. So they're seriously going to need to tighten it up. But on to the good. The defense got 6 sacks, 3 from Mike Hilton, 2 from Cameron Hayward, and 1 from Sean Spence.
7 sacks. They got 7.
What was expected with the budget line that the Texans used. They also forced 3 fumbles, recovered 1, and got an interception in this game, so that was good as well. TJ Yates doesn't know how to hold on to a ball. Then pass defense was on point, allowing a net of 51 passing yards and a total amount of only 93 yards, basically keeping Hopkins in check most of the game. He had 4 catches for 65 yards, an amazing touchdown. But like I said earlier, Hopkins is one of the best in the league. That's bound to happen. And that's not bad with what his potential is. And that's really all I have to say about the offense. I mean, the defense. What do you have to say about the defense?
I'll keep going off the good of what you were just talking about. Giving up 6 points in a game is good. And, it was a remarkable touchdown grab by DeAndre Hopkins over Joe Hayden. Speaking of Hayden, you just mentioned him. I think this guy deserves a round of applause from Steeler Nation for his performance on Christmas. Holding one of the best receivers in the league to just 65 yards is impressive. And it's even more impressive when you consider the fact that this dude broke his leg 5 weeks ago. So I just think that's worth mentioning. Beyond that, the Steelers absolutely eviscerated the Texans' passing attack, holding the combination of TJ Yates and Taylor Heineke to a combined 93 passing yards on just 8 completions with 17 throws. Part of this can be attributed to bad quarterback play and bad coaching, obviously, but at the same time, the Steelers harassed both quarterbacks, injuring both of them at certain points in this game. TJ Yates bore the brunt of the pass rush, being sacked 6 times. And speaking of sacks, Austin, we're running out of things to say about Mike Hilton. Another fantastic performance. Alex Kozor of Steelers Depot called Hilton the best blitzing Steelers cornerback they've ever had. And that's a lot of praise. But Austin, let me ask you, can you really disagree with him? I can't think of a cornerback that has really been more effective as a blitzer in such a short time.
I can't disagree. Mike Hilton is just amazing. We've seen it in the preseason. He just has a knack for it. He's a really good tackler as a cornerback, and you don't really find that often where a cornerback is really good at blitzing and at tackling. So I think he is one of the best the Steelers have. I can't think of anyone that beats him at the moment.
Diamond in the rough for sure. Hilton's been great in run support either, and on a play where everyone knew he was coming, I don't know if you remember this play, he just was way too fast and still sacked TJ Yates for a loss of 17. You remember that one?
I do remember it.
As soon as I saw Hilton kind of walk up to the line of scrimmage a little bit, I was like, well, he's coming. Everyone should know that. And I was like, I think he's getting a sack, and sure enough, he did. He's also underrated in coverage, as we saw last week against the Patriots, too. So all hail Mike Hilton. Beyond that, a pair of sacks from the should-be Pro Bowler Cam Hayward, and sacks for Stephon Tuitt and Sean Spence as well. Artie Burns had a nice acrobatic interceptions, and after potentially questions about him being benched this week, he shows that he still deserves a spot on this defense. But as far as the bad goes, as you talked about already, Austin, how does a team using its 3rd and 4th string running backs run for 176 yards against you? And furthermore, how does a team that's 4-11 run for that much against you? The Steelers did prevail and gave up only 6 points in the process, but the poor rushing defense has been extremely concerning. After appearing to fix the rush defense, this unit has really struggled without Ryan Shazier and stopping the run. And on that 48-yard gain by Blue Austin, I didn't notice the pre-snap, confusion, but did you also see Mike Mitchell's poor angle on that play?
I did. But that was. I don't really blame him for that because I felt like he expected someone else to set the edge. I know he took a bad angle, but I don't think he was supposed to be over there.
Fair enough. Regardless, that was just ugly, and I think the inside linebackers have really struggled the last few games as far as stopping the run. So that's something that the Steelers need to fix before they go into the playoffs because they'll be in trouble. Austin, you were kind enough to let me know, because I forgot, that Chris Boswell set a Steelers record for a single season for field goals. So he earns a round of applause himself as well. But, the whole special teams unit deserves that as well. They outperformed the Texans easily. Chris Boswell was perfect on the day again, and Jordan Berry had not a great average, but it was better than what he's been most of the year. He had a punt down inside the 20-yard line. But you know what, man? I think this is probably the most encouraged I've been about any return unit on the Steelers in a long time. How about Eli Rogers averaging over 16 yards a punt return, totaling 82 return yards on 5 punt returns, including a season-long, I believe, of 27 yards. You know, he might not have been particularly effective on offense, but I can't remember the time I thought there was a legitimate chance a Steeler punt returner could have multiple touchdowns in one game. There were 3 of his returns where I thought, you know what, he might actually do it. And of course he didn't, but this kind of a change for a lackluster return game is huge. And I don't know if they can sustain it, Austin, but if they can, I don't even know what to say about that. Like, that's so huge, and it's something we never thought was going to happen.
No, it was something we haven't really seen from Eli Rogers, so it was good to finally see a little bit of a return game, to be honest, but that's really all I had to say.
Alrighty. Now that we're through the recap, we'll talk a little bit about the awards of this week. So for a change this week, we'll have Austin, why don't you start with the player of the week?
Sure. For 6 solo tackles, including 3 sacks, Mike Hilton joined Troy Polamalu and Carnell Lake as the only Steelers defensive backs to have 3 sacks in a single game. And also, NFL research said that he's the first quarterback to do it in the sack era since 1982. But I don't know. I think there's a chance he might have been wrong, the guy that found that stat, because Carnell Lake played right cornerback and strong safety in 1997 when he got those 3 sacks. So I'm going to take his word for it and say that he was playing strong safety at the time. But Mike Hilton simply could not win Stronger Than Steel player of the week this week. So congratulations to him. So who's the big stop of the week?
It's a pretty simple one, in my opinion. There were a lot of great defensive plays, especially in the pass defense, but it's the interception in the end zone by Artie Burns. A pretty acrobatic play, and it was Burns' first interception of the year. He kind of got the monkey off his back. So for his interception in the end zone, which turned into eventually 6 points by the Steelers, or I guess 7 for the touchdown PAT, the end zone interception by Artie Burns wins the big stop of the week. As far as the play of the game goes, Austin, we didn't really have one. We didn't have one particular play that stood out. There were a ton of great plays in this game, including Bell's fantastic effort on his touchdown, reaching into the end zone, Martavis Bryant's long toe-dragging catch, and Martavis Bryant's third down conversion on a 3rd and 12 when he beat 2 Texans defenders. You know, the deep catch by Juju Smith-Schuster, the forced fumble by Cameron Hayward, and the recovery by Bud Dupree, and the sliding touchdown by Justin Hunter to early on in the game. There were a ton of big plays. And, you know, Austin, I can't really single out one. Can you?
I really can. I think it's pretty hard this week because these plays were all amazing, but none of them are, like, in front of the pack. There's not one of these that I feel like is, like, wow, this really deserves it. It's kind of hard. A lot of them stand their own in their own regard.
This might be the first time we have a tie. Is there at least 2 plays we can pick? Maybe we can do a poll on Facebook or something like that.
Yeah, I'm honestly, if I had to break it down, I would think I'm keeping the Cameron Hayward forced fumble and Dupree recovery, and also I'm going to take Bryant's toe drag catch because we're not used to that. We haven't been used to that from Brian, and it was a really nice catch, really nice toe drag. So I'm between. I guess I'm between those 2. I guess there are 2 in my mind that are in front of the pack, but I think it's still close.
Okay, if I were to go with one play, I think it would be. If it's between those 2 plays, I think it would be the long catch by Bryant, simply because it set up a touchdown, and I guess it's unfair to Cameron Hayward. I thought Stephon Tuitt forced a fumble later, I think. That was it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, there was 3 forced fumbles in this game, so.
Yeah, T.J. Yates definitely cannot hold on to the football. You know the quarterback rate, the QBR for T.J. Yates and Taylor Heineke, what they were respectively?
No, what were they?
2 and 1.2 on a scale of 100 or 99.9.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's
great quarterbacks, future Hall of Fame.
I know, right? Good Lord. You know what, Austin and I will figure it out, but it's between those two plays, so we'll keep you updated on that. Maybe we'll do a poll. We'll see. So we're doing stuff a little different right now. Instead of doing players that impressed and disappointed us, I figured it'd be a little easier to do a player, winners and losers, because I guess that's just more the more typical way to do it. So who are your winners on offense and defense, one player each?
On offense, it is Marcus Gilbert. He came back in a big way. Not even like Chris Hubbard was bad in his absence, but Gilbert is just so good at what he does. And then on defense, it was Artie Burns. I haven't complained about Burns in a few weeks now, actually, and I think he held his own here well. I think he did really, really decently. He obviously got the pick, so good for him. Who won for you in this game?
On offense, it was Martavis Bryant. Another week, another solid contribution from Bryant. Look, since his suspension, he's been a different player. He hasn't been amazing, but he's definitely been more impactful. All of Bryant's catches went for first downs, but the most impressive play he made, which I don't think he makes even a few weeks ago, let alone this season, was a long 3rd and 12 conversion where he was stopped a few yards short, and then he kind of spun around two Texans defenders and used this as long 6'4" frame to extend the ball past the first down marker. That's a play in the playoffs, Austin. If you make that kind of a play, that's something that gets remembered for a while. And yes, his I guess the play of the week that's under consideration, his long grab on the way to a touchdown later in that drive might have been more impressive as far as the aesthetics of it and the actual footwork. I just think that speaks more. This play speaks more of what Bryant has done this year and how far he's come this season. And on defense, it was Cam Hayward. This dude's a monster. 2 more sacks, bringing a season total to 12. The Steelers' defensive lineman hasn't had that many sacks in a season since Keith Willis, who had 12 in 1986. It's really incredible, Austin, considering how he missed most of last season, and with good reason, many weren't sure if he could get back to the level he was once at. Well, not only has he gotten back to that level, he's surpassed it easily. It really is a crime he's not in the Pro Bowl, and he really does deserve All-Pro consideration. So on the flip side, who are some losers from Monday afternoon's game?
Losers for me, I didn't really want to make this guy my loser, but it kind of came down to there wasn't enough people to pick. Eli Rogers continues to disappoint, catching only one of his 4 targets for 6 yards. I didn't want to make him my loser only because he did good at special teams. So this is just for his play on offense that he's a loser. Then on defense, it's Javon Hargrave or the coaches, whoever you want to blame. Hargrave is talented and only finished the game with 1 tackle. Whether you blame Hargrave's efficiency or the coach's lack of playing him, it's just disappointing to see him kind of fade away. It's not, I mean, he's not faded away. I say that's an exaggeration, but it's just he's not getting much playing time whatsoever, and I think he's better than that. But who were losers for you in this game?
Did you know Javon Hargrave hasn't had a sack since week 3?
Yeah, that sucks. I think a lot of it's on his playing time.
Yeah, he comes off the field on all 3rd downs. So that means the passing down that's, first of all, the most obvious, and second of all, the down where throws happen more often than any down, he's not on the field. So I don't think that's necessarily on him, but it is interesting to point out. My losers, on offense, it was Jesse James. He was relatively invisible this week, partially because Vance McDonald returned and was pretty good on Monday. James got 1 target and it was in the corner of the end zone. It would have been a tough catch, but it's one that you really want him to make. On defense, it was a quiet day for the youngest Watt brother, TJ. He wasn't awful, but he only finished with 2 tackles, and he just nearly avoided a bad injury. So maybe he doesn't deserve to be a loser for that. Maybe, if anything, he's a winner for not getting injured. But on a day where they were talking all about the Watt family, he just didn't do much. So I was a little disappointed with him. Do you have any other thoughts on the game, Austin, before we move on?
No, I think that's it.
All right, just a quick couple little tidbits. With the Steelers' win, they clinched a first-round bye, and they still have a shot at the number 1 seed next week. We'll get into that in our next episode. And having never played on Christmas in their history, the last 2 until last year, the Steelers are now 2-0 on Christmas Day, so that's nice. And as far as NFL news goes, Austin, there's some notable games, but the Steelers were watching the Bills and Patriots game. where once again the Patriots are the beneficiary of a controversial kind of review here. So it's clear the NFL doesn't really know what a catch is still. Kelvin Benjamin supposedly caught a touchdown pass in the corner of the end zone just before halftime, and it was overturned. So I guess, what's your take on the whole Kelvin Benjamin controversy?
Well, one of the refs literally said he didn't know how it wasn't a catch. I don't know how it wasn't a catch. Momentum is big in football, and I think had the refs ruled this correctly, which I will flat out say they are wrong for overturning it, that this game could have ended closer. I'm just appalled that it really does suck that it feels like everything goes the Patriots' way. And I'm not going to say that, yeah, the Bills would have won this, because Bills were the worst team coming into this. Brady has their number, and I'm sure that the Patriots would have won anyway. But it's still, like, it's daunting that it feels like teams have to verse the refs and the Patriots. And I don't think it's collusion or rigged. I just think that it's just, the Patriots just get calls more than anyone else. It sucks. It's an awful coincidence, but just, I don't know. It really pisses me off, because this one was, as a Bills fan, this one was rough. For all the Bills fans out there, I'm sorry, but this looked like a catch to me. I didn't think, even when they looked at the review, I didn't think there was any evidence that they could have overturned this. There was no clear, undisputable evidence that they could say, yeah, that wasn't a touchdown. So I think the refs really dropped the ball on this one, so there's that. What do you think of this controversy?
I actually find this more egregious than the Jesse James call last week. At least last week you could say the correct call was made according to the rule book. Here, I don't really see how there's conclusive evidence to overturn this touchdown. That's what you need, Austin. It'd be one thing if this play was called incomplete originally. I would have understood. I wouldn't have really any problem with it. But there isn't conclusive evidence in my mind, or really, I don't see how anyone watching that could have said, this is definitely not a touchdown. It's not the reason the Bills lost, Austin, but I'm willing to bet this game would have gone a lot differently had the Bills went into halftime with the lead instead of being tied. That definitely kind of took the air out of their tires. And, the Patriots have 2 penalties for 9 yards in their last 2 games. I'm willing to bet that they've committed more than that. They just haven't, been called. So make that what you will. But it's really frustrating to see that. The Bills really needed that game. Now they're on the outside looking in, going into the final week of the season. Last little tidbit. The NFL has decided not to have a Sunday Night Football game this week in lieu of New Year's Eve. Probably the right move in my mind, Austin. It's great to spend New Year's Eve with your family, and even those 4 o'clock games, they should end by 8, 9 o'clock. They should be home in time to spend the New Year with loved ones, or if they're on the road, they should be able to spend it with some people on the team, So I guess that's good.
Yeah, I feel like it was the right move. I feel like it's also, it gives them a chance to at least celebrate the holiday.
And Austin, is there anything else you wanted to say? I guess we could look back at last week's football action real quick.
Sure, we could do that. That sounds good.
Alrighty.
We'll start with Colts at Ravens. That was a pretty boring game. The Colts kept it closer than we had thought, wouldn't you say? I had the Colts plus 13, but
that's a big spread.
I still think it was kind of a snooze fest, and I think that the Ravens, there's basically no fear for the Ravens to lose that. 23-16 it ended. Kind of boring. Do you have anything to say?
No, not really. It was a good game if you're a Ravens fan. Not much besides that. The other game, I don't even think there's anything to really say. Just we want to talk about a snooze fest. Jeez, the Packers can't wait for this season to end.
Oh yeah, after Aaron Rodgers went on IR, it was over. They scored 0 points on one of the NFL's best defenses. So there's that.
The march to 0-16 continues. The Bears win their 5th game of the year and sweep the AFC North, winning 20-3. The most Browns thing ever. I guess we're running out of ways to say that, Austin. The Browns had a touchdown on the first play of the second half, a pick 6 by Myles Garrett taken away by an offsides penalty. Yikes.
Yeah, not good. That really sucks for them. But, I mean, they're bad, and they're going to throw a parade. They're throwing an 0-16 parade in Cleveland, so I guess that's something to look forward to, unless the Steelers lose to them, and then all their hopes and dreams are crushed. They can't even lose properly. But I picked the Bears to cover in that game, and I was correct because Browns are bad, and they should feel bad.
Hugh Jackson said he will jump in the lake. In Lake Erie, like he said he would last year if the Browns finish with 1 win. And he could avoid that by losing, but, I don't think that was the goal. Lions. Oh, what? What'd you say?
I said that's bold.
Yeah.
That's a bold move, Con.
The Lions disappointed everybody in a typical Detroit fashion by losing a game they needed to win on the road. The Bengals win in what could be Marvin Lewis's final home game ever. Not a very exciting game.
No, I didn't find it exciting at all. I was just I was at work listening to it for a little while, and there was just better games on at the time. I was more focused on the New England-Buffalo game.
The Titans are in bad shape. The Rams beat them 27-23. They clinched their first NFC West title since 2003, so congratulations to them. The Titans are fighting for their playoff lives.
Yeah, the Titans they need some help. I don't think they're making the playoffs. They have hope because the Jaguars are stuck in their position from what I remember when playing with the playoff machine. So the Jaguars are probably just going to rest players, but I still think the Titans are bad. So there's that.
Doug Marrone said that he doesn't intend on resting his starters.
Oh, really?
That's
okay,
what I.
Well then,
that's what I thought. I
they're
heard.
Screwed.
Yeah. The Chiefs appear to have regained their early season form and are 9-6 after drubbing the Dolphins 29-13. Yeah.
That was actually decent game for a little bit, and then the Chiefs took off. I thought there was a chance that the Dolphins actually won that in the beginning, but it just the Chiefs took over.
We already talked about the Bills and Patriots, just the final score 37-16. The Falcons got defeated by the Saints in the Superdome 23-13. Marshawn Lattimore had quite an interesting interception there, didn't he?
Yeah, there's now a butt fumble and a butt interception in the NFL. It's lit.
It is lit, as one might say. The Chargers beat the Jets in another snooze fest, 14-7. The Chargers keep their playoff hopes alive. I have nothing else to add there.
Yeah, the Chargers. Melvin Gordon, the running back, sprained his ankle, but he's expected to play this Sunday. But that would suck if he can't, because the Chargers are really trying to make one last attempt to make a playoff push. And if they make the playoffs, it's the second team in history to make the playoffs after starting 0-4. And the only other team to do that was the San Diego Chargers in, I think, 1982, if I remember correctly.
Oh.
I hope that was right. Yeah.
I had said 08, but that was different. The Chargers were 4-8 in 2008 and made the playoffs. My bad. Game between two teams out of the playoffs, the Broncos and Redskins. 27-11 Redskins. Kirk Cousins had a great game in what could be his last home game in Washington. I don't even want to talk about this game.
The Broncos are bad, and they should feel bad. They are just awful.
Panthers clinch a playoff spot with the 22-19 win over the Buccaneers, who kept it close like I thought they were going to. Jameis Winston, the turnover machine, producing at a normal rate at the end of the game, fumbling that game away. And the Panthers, I guess they make good luck with their fumble with Cam Newton bobbling the snap and then, running it in for the game-winning touchdown.
Tampa Bay had that one. Tampa Bay was in control that entire game and then just blew it at the end. And that would have really shook things up in the NFC if that happened. I think that would have really messed with the playoff stuff, but the Panthers edged it out at the end.
the legend of Jimmy Garoppolo continues. Another win for Jimmy G over the Jaguars, and Blake Bortles comes back to earth. 3 picks, and the Niners win again, 44-33 over the number 3 seed in the AFC. This was an impressive win, and it's a good sign for Pittsburgh, showing that Jacksonville can be beat. They haven't lost in a while.
Suddenly, the 49ers for next season look very, very scary. I thought Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be good, but he's playing really well with the pieces he has. So the 49ers also got a relatively high draft pick, even though playing Jimmy Garoppolo has actually messed with that. But they're still going to have one to get him pieces. I think the 49ers might be a really good team next year if it keeps up.
The next game, a pick 6 by Dak Prescott seals the fate of the Dallas Cowboys, whose season ends. And the Seahawks, after all they've been through the last month of the year, have a chance to make it into the playoffs with a win and a Falcons loss against the Panthers next week.
Ooh, that game was ugly for after the fact. His name is skipping me. Who is it? Is it Earl Thomas? Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas literally went to the Cowboys locker room after the game and said, went to Jason Garrett and told him straight up, "Come get me next season." He's literally, I don't know. It just seems disrespectful to do that out in public, and while the season's still going, you're still a Seahawk. I felt like it should have waited for the season to end, but it just, I don't know. As a Seahawks fan, that would have pissed me off. Just wait till after the season and then go. But I don't know. He went up to Jason Garrett and literally asked to get him in the offseason right after this game. So take that as you will.
What would Yinzer say about Mike Tomlin had that been a Steelers player?
Yeah, that would have been awful, and another story we would have not needed.
But yeah, no. Mike Tomlin's a terrible coach. I'm sure Pete Carroll isn't getting the same, treatment that Tomlin would get had that been happening to the Steelers. A pair of terrible teams, or I guess really one terrible team and one average team. Larry Fitzgerald, in what might have been his last home game ever, was prolific again. The Giants shut out, and they definitely can't wait for their season to end too. 23-0.
Yeah, that was awful. Giants are bad, just like the Broncos, except maybe worse. They beat the Broncos, so I don't know. I feel like the Giants are worse still.
Poor Dom.
Poor Dom.
Last game of the week, the Eagles clinch the first seed home field advantage in the NFC with a game-winning 48-yard field goal by Jake Elliott. And I almost got this pick right had the Eagles been allowed to kick an extra point. But they probably shouldn't have had that touchdown in the first place. But this game was ugly. Turnovers galore. Everyone was in the giving mood on that game.
Oh, yeah. 2 interceptions for Derek Carr. Another interception for Nick Foles. Just ugly, ugly, ugly. They just wanted to keep throwing it back and forth. They're playing catch.
Well, that wraps up Week 16 of the NFL season. 1 week left to go. Hopefully I sound better for our next episode, which we'll shoot for, obviously, before Sunday. Man, the NFL season flies every year, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's sad. We're getting to the end, aren't we?
Luckily, the Steelers are going to be back in the postseason race, and they have a first-round bye for the first time since 2010. And the last 2 times the Steelers had a first-round bye, 2010 and 2011, the Steelers made it to the Super Bowl, so that's something encouraging to see. Hi, Bingo. My girlfriend's dog just came downstairs. In any case, ladies and gentlemen, Austin, do you have anything else you wanted to add before we wrap things up?
No, I think we're good.
Alrighty. You want to take care of the end, or do you want me to get it?
You can get it.
Okay. I'm going to keep it pretty short today because I'm tired of talking. My voice hurts. If you have any questions about the show, email us at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. And feel free to check out our website, strongerthansteelnfl at blogspot. Oh my God, I'm I'm having a rough time here, Austin. I apologize. It's stronger than steel, NFL.blogspot.com. All right, Austin, thank you so much for joining me. It's been great being in Long Island. It was good to see you last week, and looking forward to hopefully another Steelers win over the winless Browns on Sunday. We'll be back with the preview episode later this week.
Yes, sir.
All right, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
You have been listening to Stronger Than Steel podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our website listed in the description below.